Hi, I just edited this video that you are about to watch, and I noticed that my focus is kind of messed up. It keeps zooming in and out for no reason at all, so I'm very sorry for that. And if that's something that bothers you, just don't look at the screen, I guess.
Hello, fellow mushroom people, and if there's any humans watching, hello to you as well. So today I want to talk about all the books that I finished in the first half of March, and also the books that I'm still reading and the books that I DNF'd. Okay, so let's start with the books that I did not finish. The first one that I decided to put down and not continue is The Absolute Book by Elizabeth Knox. So I had really high hopes for this book because I think I read a review where it said, I can't believe that this book doesn't have an American publisher, it's so good. And that's why I picked it up, because I'm easily convinced to pick up things. And also it sounded kind of interesting. I couldn't tell you what it's about. It's about The Absolute Book, which is kind of a magical book, and it's about the girl or the woman now who grew up with her grandpa, and they had this book in their library, but then it vanished and she forgot so many things, and her sister died, and there's also demons, and there's also parallel worlds, and there's so much going on, and it was very, very confusing, and I got the feeling that things were never properly explained, and that was really annoying me. And at one point I was like, yeah, it's still interesting, so I still want to keep going. And that's when I read one more chapter and very confusing stuff was happening, and I was like, no. So that's it. I'm not going on with this book. I'm putting it down. It's just not for me. I've read like 1/3 of the book, and so far it hasn't convinced me that it's going to be good, and I don't want to waste my time on it. So I decided not to finish it. I think other people will enjoy this more, but it's still very confusing, and I don't like that. So there are books that are confusing because they have a kind of mystery or whatever, but this I think was just confusing because the author didn't probably explain stuff, and I did not feel like I want to go on, because I don't think it's going to get better. Okay, so the second book that I did not finish is the Library of the Unwritten by A.J. Hackwith. This book is about the Library of Hell, and more precise, the Unwritten Wing, where books that have not been finished are waiting to be continued, I guess. And sometimes those books come to life and they often just cause havoc, but some of them they venture to our world to meet up with their authors and convince them to write on and just finish them. And there's also the Devil's Bible, I guess. And so it's what I want to say. I think I said that before, that this book feels like a very cheap fantasy TV show where they don't really have the budget to put fantastical elements in the show, but want to make a fantasy show anyway, so they just come up with kind of ways to avoid having to have an actual set and stuff. And yeah, that's the feeling that I got, and I did not like that. And so the characters weren't that interesting. The premise didn't really interest me. I think a lot of people would have fun with this book, but to me it felt... So it's not a bad book, but I felt that if I would keep going on with the book, that in the end it would have felt like I wasted my time, and I did not want that. So I decided to put it down. I'm very sorry, but it's just not for me, I guess. Yeah, so I'm not continuing this book. Okay, but for the books that I did finish, the first one is The Voyage to Magical North by Claire Fayers. This is the second middle grade book that I read in February and finished this one in March. Unfortunately, this one was not nearly as good as Orphans of the Tide. So this book is about two kids, Brian and Peter, who end up on the pirate ship, and they team up with a kind of evil sorcerer to find this place called Magical North. And they go on those adventures and it's all very dangerous. And I guess for kids it's a great time because a lot of stuff's happening and it really never settles down. And that was my problem with the book, because I felt like the pirate crew, they were never really established who their characters were. We never got to know them. They were just there, and I had the feeling they were a bunch of stereotypes. Also, the fantastical elements were not that interesting or that special. I liked some aspects, but I think I'm just too old for this book. So some middle grade books have an appeal for adults as well, and I think this one did not really. And that's why I did not really enjoy it. So I skimmed through the last few chapters just because I wanted to be done with it. And there's a sequel as well. I won't pick that up because it just wasn't for me. Okay, so the next book that I finished is Persephone Station by Stina Leicht. This one is a science fiction novel about a group of mercenaries who are sent to a very remote village full of kind of locals that they have to protect from a corporal threat who want to steal their knowledge of technology and biology and medicine for their own gain. I really enjoyed this book, so this was a very fun read. The ending was a bit of a letdown, so it was a bit anticlimactic. I would have hoped for a better resolution in the end. It kind of fell short for me. But the book itself was really enjoyable. I liked the characters and their interactions with one another. I wouldn't say that this is one of the greatest books ever written. And if you have a very long TBR full of books you are interested in, I would probably pick up others first, because while this was very fun, it wasn't really that remarkable. I still think that I would pick up a sequel if in the future there is a sequel. I think I will pick it up because I like the characters enough to want to keep reading. But yeah, it was a fun read, it entertained me, and I don't regret reading this at all. I also like that one of the blurbs on the back says, fast-paced, no-nonsense prose. And I guess the first sentence could have been, this book is shit, but it has fast-paced, no-nonsense prose. Yeah, but still enjoyable. Okay, the next two books that I finished, I won't talk about them in detail because I want to keep the surprise up for the reveal of my Battle of the Books March TBR. Those two books are Spin the Dawn by Elizabeth Lim and Woven in Moonlight by Isabel Ibanez. Those two were on my March TBR and I read them. I read books on my TBR. I'm very proud of myself. So yeah, let's start with this one. So I read that first. Woven in Moonlight is about a girl who duels for a princess. So they live in this kingdom and their kingdom has been overtaken by a different king, and so they went to this, I think it's a castillo, where they are hiding from the kind of other army. And so one day a messenger comes to their castillo and he's like, hey, princess, if you marry our king, then we will not harm you and you can live in peace in this country again. So the princess agrees, and so her Jubal, the main character in this book, she goes to the king's court and she lives there and they kind of prepare for the marriage. And of course she's there as a spy because the king, he has this thing called Estrella, which is a kind of magical item. And the real princess, she wants this item so she can take back her kingdom. Yeah, so this is what the book is about. I won't go into any detail whether I liked it or not. That has to wait for the Battle of the Books finals, semi-finals, battle video. Yeah, but that is what the book is about. And so Spin the Dawn is about a girl who goes to the Emperor's court in order to partake in a tailoring contest. So the winner gets to be the Emperor's new tailor. And yeah, so that's the first part of the book. The second part of the book is about her going on a journey and finding these kind of magical materials to create very special magical dresses for the soon-to-be empress. Yeah, so this is based in Asian mythology, I think more or less Chinese mythology, and this one is inspired by South American culture, so very international. Yeah, and that's all I'm going to say about these books. Okay, as for the books that I'm still reading, there's another one that's on my TBR. This is Ruinsong by Julia Ember. This book is about a girl who has magical powers that manifest while she's singing, so the magic is in the song. And she is kind of, okay, employed is the wrong word. So she works for I can say that, she's an evil queen. It's been established in the first few pages. She's a very evil queen, and she works for that queen to do stuff. So she's doing things, kind of evil things so far. So I'm not that far in. I've read like 60 pages. Yeah, and then there's also this other girl called Remy. She is a noble, and they have been childhood friends. So I think they're going to be lovers soon, I guess. Yeah, but that's Ruinsong. I won't go into any detail about this as well, because this is also in the battle. And the second book that I'm currently reading is The Kingdom of Liars by Martell. I first stumbled upon this because the US version of this book has a great cover. I really like the cover. This is the UK version, which is not that great. It's okay. But I saw that the sequel was coming out in May or April this year. And so I thought, yeah, I could pick it up. I'm 190 pages in, and so far I have to say that this book is full of things. So I have the feeling that the author had a lot of ideas and he wanted to put them all into this one book. So far there's lots of characters, lots of themes, just so much going on, and I think it's a bit too much. So the story is about Michael Kingman. So he belongs to the Kingman family, and they have served the kings of Hollow, so the place is called Hollow, for like centuries, at least for a very, very long time. And they have been a very prestigious high noble family until Michael's father murdered the, I don't know, 9-year-old prince. And the father was hanged or killed as a traitor, and Michael and his siblings, they were branded as traitors as well. And so he kind of gets by in some way, and he just decides to uncover the truth of what really happened back when his father was still alive. Yeah, I still think it's an interesting book, but it has a lot going on, and I don't know if I like that yet. So if you are interested in this but have other fantasy novels on your TBR, I suggest picking those up first, because this one, it hasn't convinced me yet. So, but I will keep reading. So far it's still interesting enough. It's a very fast read, it's very fast paced, but I think he could have left out some things. It just feels very full of things. Okay, I'm also listening to 2 audiobooks right now. The first one is The Bone Ships by R.J. Baker. This is about ships made of dragon bones. And I'm not that far in, so I can't really talk about it much because I don't know much. But it's interesting, I guess. It's so far it hasn't really wowed me. Also, the main character is totally obnoxious. He's so annoying, and he's very whiny, and he's super useless. I guess that's that is the intent, and that he will get better later on. But right now, I really don't like him. He's just whiny and annoying. And so in the beginning, he gets challenged for his head. So he was the captain of the ship, and his head gets taken from him by a woman whose name I can't recall. But she's way more capable and way more interesting, and she should stay captain because she is good at her job. And yeah, but I will go on with the audiobook because so far it's still interesting and I want to see where it goes. There hasn't really been a plot yet, so I can't say anything about the plot. But yeah, dragon bone ships. And the second book that I'm still listening to is The Children of Time by Adrian Tchaikovsky. This book is about a planet that has been terraformed, and some scientists released a virus on this planet, more or less by accident, so this was planned in a different way. They want to send monkeys down to the planet and then release the virus to kind of discover how humanity evolved, kinda. So they want to make new humans basically, but that experiment failed, and now spiders are evolving very fast. So this book is about highly evolved spiders, and I think people coming to the planet as well. And so far it's been very interesting. I'm not that far in, but I'm interested to see where it goes. So usually I don't really like spiders. I mean, I'm not that afraid of them, but I don't need to look at them either. And but those spiders have been very interesting. I like the spiders, I have to say, of the story so far. Yeah, so I'm interested to see where this goes. Yeah. Okay, and that's all the books that I read in the first half of March, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and I wish you a very pleasant day. So bye.